Comic book movie fans love coming up with theories about upcoming productions, and that applies to the DC movies. A lot of those theories end up coming true, but that's obviously not always the case, especially in the DCEU. These DC fan theories turned out to be very wrong. And while you're watching, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's the best way of keeping up to date with all of Screen Rant's great new videos. Nightmare cameos. Before 2016's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice was released, the movie's trailers made it very clear to fans that there would be scenes depicting Batman's nightmares about the potential fate of the Earth in the DCEU franchise. Nightmares in which the Dark Knight led a group of rebels against a fascist Superman. While it was quickly made obvious Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman would play a prominent part in the movie, there was also early confirmation there would be cameos from the likes of Jason Momoa's Aquaman, Ray Fisher's Cyborg, and Ezra Miller's Flash. And one very early theory suggested the only appearances from these characters would be in the Caped Crusader's Bad Dreams. Granted, the Flash did appear through a portal in one of the nightmares to warn Batman of a potential apocalyptic future. Both Aquaman and Cyborg only appeared in footage from video files in Lex Luthor's emails. The eventual cameos seemed forced and, more to the point, extremely anticlimactic.
Thanks. Let's do it again sometime.
Thank you.
Jena Malone as Barbara Gordon. It was announced relatively early during the production of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice that Donnie Darko and Hunger Games star Jena Malone had been cast in the movie. Immediately, fans started to theorize which character she might be playing, and by far the most prominent theory was that she'd be playing Barbara Gordon, the daughter of Gotham City's Jim Gordon. Barbara has amazing martial arts skills and brilliant technological know-how, and she's a superhero in her own right, having gone by the names Batgirl and Oracle in the comic books. But she was actually cast in a more minor role as Jeanette Clyburn in Batman v Superman. But her scenes were completely left out of the theatrical release of the movie. The cutscenes were only included on the Ultimate Edition home video release, which was quite disappointing for a lot of fans. There was also a theory that she would be playing a female version of Robin, incidentally, but we don't want to flood this video with Jena Malone theories, so we'll just leave that as a footnote in this entry rather than allocating it one for itself.
You don't look so good. Leave me alone!
Bizarro. In the build-up to Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, there were several fan theories regarding who the movie's villain was going to be. These theories all occurred prior to the Doomsday reveal in the later trailers. One very prominent theory was that the villain was going to be Bizarro. In the comics, Bizarro is a mirror image of Superman, an extremely dumb brute who possesses typical Kryptonian powers, but in reverse. The theories about the potential DCEU version varied from him being a twisted, resurrected version of Zod, an evil clone of Superman, or even Superman himself gone rogue. As it turned out, Zod was indeed resurrected, but he became Doomsday, not Bizarro, and Doomsday was the reason Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman came together, spawning the idea of forming the DCEU Justice League in the process.
This ends tonight. All of it.
Nobody knows that better than me.
Eli Snyder as Robin. As you probably know, Zack Snyder was the man behind Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and given his history for following a family trend, a fan theory was born. The family trend was casting his son in minor roles in his past movies. Eli Snyder, who is now almost 20, has played the young Leonidas in 2006's 300, you know, the kid who killed the wolf, as well as the young Rorschach in 2009's Watchmen, for example. And the theory for Batman v Superman was that he'd be playing the young Robin. It was expected Robin would be dead in the DCEU, which does indeed appear to be the case, but this theory suggested that his death would be depicted in Batman v Superman in a flashback scene. Fans speculated Jared Leto's Joker would make a cameo appearance murdering the young Robin. Of course, it didn't end up happening, but who knows what might happen in the future of the DCEU.
She was my world, and you took her from me.
Steppenwolf kills Lois Lane. This one was a pretty simple no-nonsense theory, and it was the theory that Steppenwolf would kill Lois Lane in the Justice League movie. The theory suggested Lane's death at the hands of the villain would awaken Superman. Apparently, he'd be able to hear it from his tomb, and that he would proceed to go crazy. The nightmare scenes in which the Man of Steel was a fascist dictator would then turn out to be real in this scenario, with Lane's death having turned Supes into a demented maniac. Of course, none of that ended up happening.
You know, if you're not gonna do it for your country, at least do it for your kid.
Scott Eastwood as Nightwing. When the first Suicide Squad trailer was released, a fan theory was born regarding Scott Eastwood, son of the legendary Clint Eastwood. Prior to seeing the trailer, some fans speculated he'd be playing Deathstroke, but the trailer led many to believe he'd be playing Nightwing. In the comics, Nightwing is one of the names used by Dick Grayson, the first Robin, and after years of being Batman's sidekick, he took on a mantle of his own. He carried on being Nightwing until he decided to become a special agent when he was known as Agent 37. In the Suicide Squad trailer, Eastwood is clearly dressed in Special Unit Ops attire, and he looked as though he was in the same command as Rick Flag. The theory suggested Batman had something to do with this, and he'd asked Grayson to keep a close eye on the Suicide Squad due to their potential links to the Joker. Of course, in the end, it turned out that Eastwood was actually playing a more minor role as Lieutenant G.Q. Edwards, a Navy SEAL who assisted Flag during the Suicide Squad's mission.
Where's a rock have to do with Homeland Security?
Homeland Security? No, ma'am. Planetary security.
Lex Luthor the hero. Luthor has actually been a hero in the comics, sometimes an anti-hero, sometimes an outright superhero, but he's always been a bad guy in the movies. However, some people theorized Eisenberg's version would have good intentions, and his motives for bringing the Justice League together were good, even if its methods were a little unnerving. The idea was Luthor wanted to unite the Justice League because he knew about the coming of Darkseid, and that bringing them together was the only way to ensure Earth was capable of defending itself from his attack. However, it would later emerge that the Justice League post-credits scene revealed he was bringing villains together to combat the superhero team, starting with Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke. And this completely goes against the idea that he might be a remotely good person in the DCEU.
Time that you were from?
I think what he's trying to say is he's from the future.
Are we saying I can time travel?
The Cosmic Treadmill. When the first Justice League trailers were released, a theory was conceived regarding Barry Allen and the future of the DCEU as a whole. It related to the fact that no information was evident to suggest that Ezra Miller's Flash had any idea that he could time travel, which led some fans to believe Bruce Wayne could work with Allen to develop the Cosmic Treadmill in the movie, which Barry would then use to time travel when needed. The idea was that something would happen in the movie that forced Barry into using the machine to travel back to warn others about it, which is what we saw in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and ultimately enable the Justice League to win the battle with Steppenwolf and his forces. This didn't end up being the case, but Flashpoint is certainly something that looks like it's happening in the very near future.
You said you'd come. Now let's hope you're not too late.
ALFRED'S trailer encounter. When the Justice League movie was released, there was a prominent scene in the trailers that clearly wasn't included. It involved Bruce Wayne's butler, Alfred Pennyworth, speaking to an unseen character in what most people assumed was the Batcave, and in which he said you'd come. Some people thought it would be Batman's old sidekick Robin. Others thought it would be a member of the Green Lantern Corps like John Stewart. Some believed it would be Supergirl, while others even suggested that it would be John Johns, the Martian Manhunter. However, the deleted scene has since been made public, and it shows that it was actually Superman that Alfred was speaking to. We have to assume the scene would have occurred before Superman joined the fight with Steppenwolf, as Alfred went on to say, "Now let's hope you're not too late," which would suggest that the final battle with the villain was already underway at that point.
They did not tell me the interview was with a lady.
I'm not a lady, I'm a journalist.
Lois Lane is a telepath. This particular theory really did come completely out of left field, as there's no precedent for it being the case, and it's the theory that Amy Adams' Lois Lane would be revealed to be a telepath in the DCEU.
You're psychotic.
That is a 3-syllable word for any thought too big for little minds.
The idea came from the fact it was made clear that Superman would come back to life in the Justice League movie. And that made some people think Lois Lane had contacted his corpse telepathically to tell him the world needed him. The trailers also showed Lois and the Man of Steel talking, and some people believed the conversation was taking place telepathically inside the pair's heads, which was frankly ridiculous. And there's nothing to remotely suggest that Lois actually has telepathic powers.
You smell good.
Did I not before?
And that's the end of our video. Did you enjoy it? Did you have any other DC movie theories that ended up being wrong? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Screen Rant for more great videos like this one. See you later.